to let them down occasionally. She's great, she's hot, she's a lot like a virgin.
Generation of hip hop growing up in the 70s and 80s, Roxanne Shante for an urban young girl like me was everything. She was edgy, she was fierce, she was vulnerable. My brother had a crush on her. He still does. She was a voice that a lot of us who grew up during this era did not have. And I thought it was important for her to come to NYU to talk about her experience ending Women's History Month, to capture a story that I think is needed to be told. Ironically, it happens at the same time her biopic on Netflix comes out. So, yes, you see it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And me doing more research on Roxanne Shante and knowing that she was dominating Queensbridge projects, housing projects at the age of 9, battle rapping, then becoming the first major successful female MC, girl rapper, right? At the age of 14, or teen rapper at the age of 14 is extremely impressive. You haven't seen that since. And so let's welcome Roxanne Shante so we can have a good conversation and talk about her life. So we're gonna go back and forth, and then we're gonna open it up. So people have questions. I know many of you probably have questions if you saw the movie or you know anything about her. So I wanted to, as I was preparing,
I'm trying to rinse down some of the guacamole. Give me a second.
okay. You know what I love about her? She is extremely accessible. I have to be very transparent about how we met. She lives in Newark. I live in Newark. And I was walking out of my husband's barbershop, which is in downtown Newark, and I walked across the street and I said, Roxanne Shante! She was like, hey, baby. You know, we talked and I said, ooh, girl, your husband fine. You know what I'm saying? It was a sister girl moment. And she was like, yeah, he is. You know, and so I was like, wow, she's extremely accessible. I used to be an entertainment journalist. And I've seen, you know, what the entertainment world can be like for an artist. So it was really refreshing to see somebody who was still grounded in the work with me and
Thank you
ready to talk. So
absolutely.
Welcome, sister.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to ask questions because I saw a gazillion from Sway in the Morning all the way to
Oh my goodness, yes.
105 to Essence. I wanted to ask those questions that weren't asked about you. There's so many things. I find you extremely fascinating that you held your own at such a young age. I want to go a little bit back. Just talk about your parents.
Okay. Well, I grew up in a single-parent household, so I really didn't have any interaction with my dad whatsoever. So growing up in a household with a very strong mom, like there was never a time that I actually felt that I was missing anything by not having both of my parents in the household. And that is something that can usually, and I don't want to say that it can only be accomplished by a black single mother, but my experiences with a black single mother. And she made it where you did not miss not having the other parent. For some reason, she just made it where you just didn't think that there was a certain absence. You know, everything that you still needed, you still had. Everything that you wanted to do, you still were able to do. When you wanted to ride a bike, she taught you. You wanted to fix your bike, she taught you. You wanted to fix your flat tire, she taught you. You know, you needed to hang up things in the house. She knew how to hang them up. We had an old drill. She knew how to use a drill. When we had to paint, she had paint parties. So I really did not understand what it was to have quote-unquote daddy issues until I became a teenager, when there were certain things and certain interactions that you do have that your mom can't tell you about, or maybe she felt that she didn't want to tell you about. So, as far as my parents go, I grew up with a wonderful mom and felt like I wasn't missing anything. And for some of you who may have seen the movie, you would understand why I was able to be very forgiving under any circumstances when it came to my mother, because I understood what she was going through. And see, not everybody does that. A lot of times children get angry. They feel like they want to place the blame. They feel like it's your fault. They feel like, oh, why you didn't do this? Why you didn't do that? Why isn't this way? Why isn't this that way? But she was such a great mom. Still today, she's a great mom. Like, she's still very upfront, like very forward. She will say out of her mouth whatever she wants to say, And so when you want the truth, you go to her. When you want to sugarcoat it, then you go to one of my sisters. But, if you want to know what it is, she'll tell you. And, I'm proud of that. And a lot of people will say, we want to build these families and we want to do this. No, we just want to make sure that our women are very strong. We want to be very supportive to our women, because in all reality, that will keep the family structure together. And that's just the Roxanne Shante point.
All right.
I wanted to know when in this evolution of the relationship with your mother, there's a point where there's a shift, where you look at your mother as not just a mom, but as a woman.
Yeah.
When was that, and how did that happen?
Well, actually, it took place when we were living in the projects, and and I don't say that like it was a bad thing. I'm sure there's a lot of people who wish they lived in the projects now with the way the rents are in New York City. Especially when you're talking like a project like Queensbridge Public Housing, where you have $1 million view. I mean, $1 million view. So absolutely, I don't see anything wrong with that. The shift in our relationship, when I started to look at things a little differently, was the fact when she wanted to move us out of the projects. So she fell in love, as most people do. She fell in love. She trusted him. And, in the process of doing that, she actually trusted us with him. Now, there was never no sexual abuse or anything like that took place, so there was nothing like that. But what it was is the fact of your dreams are very important. And when you give your dreams to someone and they drop them, that can hurt you more than anything else. You would prefer to have had actually some physical abuse than to have someone take your dreams and crush them. You'd rather have a smashed finger than to have smashed dreams. And so we told everybody we were moving. We're like, oh, we moving out the projects. Yeah, we gone, And when you get ready to move out the projects, I don't know if any of you have made that move, but even if you move out of a house, what's the first thing you do is you say, okay, you know what? I'm not taking any of these things with me. So because of that, we already had a pretty nice household. At least we had more than others and more than the average. So she started selling the things that we had, because she wasn't going to take them with us into this new house. So she was like, oh, girl, yeah, you can buy them beds. Girl, I ain't taking that shit with me. She was like, yeah, you can do it. It was like, oh, Peggy, what about those nice beads? She was like, girl, yeah, you can go on and get them beads. And yeah, and so I'm watching her literally give away our household. But I'm looking forward to going to move someplace else. So she waited until the very last day, because she didn't want us to be without beds. And I think what it was something that she must have felt inside, because there's a certain intuition. But she was like, you know what? I'm not going to get rid of my baby beds just yet. When we get ready to move, when the truck come, I'll let you pick the beds up and stuff like that. And so, she was one of those moms that, you flip the mattress one year and then you flip the mattress another year, then you get a new mattress. She's like that type of mom. So, we have the mattresses, whatever. So, the next thing I know, the day for us to move, he doesn't show up. He doesn't come back. So now we're sitting in an apartment with boxes. Pots are gone. Because my mom's like, we're going to get new pots. The only thing she kept was like 2 cast iron skillets that she had brought from Alabama, because they don't make them no more. She had already greased them, and they was good for frying chicken and frying fish and everything. Those are the ones. So she was like, nah, I can't get those, because those are the first pans that people want. They go, let me get that frying pan. But she's like, no, my kids are still going to eat. And so we were sitting there, and I watched my mom's dreams and it's almost like watching someone get shot and then watching the light leave out of their face. or watching the light leap out of their eyes. I literally watched that. And it wasn't that so much so for her, because as an adult and the things that she had went through in her own life, she was able to handle that. But she looked at it like she let us down, that she had sold us a dream. And like my main mantra in life is like, listen, I don't sell dreams. That's why I don't have nightmares. That's why I sleep very good at night, because I don't sell dreams. Somebody asks me, can I do something? If I can do it, I do it. If I can't, I tell you I can't. And I'm fine with not being able to do everything. Some people don't do that. Some people sell dreams. Oh, come by and check me out on Monday. Not me. I say, listen, I'm telling you, I ain't action on Friday. I ain't action on Monday. So, unless you find some way for us to get it over the weekend, then, I'll help you do that. But I'm not going to make you no promises about Monday. And I want that light, that sparkle, go for a little while, And every day I just prayed for that sparkle to return, because it taught me such a lesson as far as what type of mother I wanted to be, what type of woman I needed to be, what I was going to do. So I wanted to hold the household together and not let anything be missing. I didn't want my sisters to feel bad about not having all the clothes that we had given away. So because I was, at the time I was able to borrow things from stores without permission. Absolutely, and that's what we're about doing, liberation. And so that's what so because I was able to do that, I wanted to make sure that they didn't miss anything. Because I know that if my mom was in the right state of mind at that time, we would have those things. So she still cooked, she still stayed home, but it just showed like the drive was gone just for a little while, and in the midst of that, it just showed me how much my mom is my world, how much I depended on her for everything. Because, you think that you become a teenager, you think that you don't necessarily need your mom, especially girls, girls and women, we clash, we go through that moment. But I realized how much, I needed her guidance, and to not be able to talk to her as we would normally talk, with her just saying, okay, go ahead, it wasn't the norm for me. So that's when things changed. But through the grace of God, they were able to change back, and I was blessed, because some people go out and don't come back, and I was blessed enough that my mom returned back to herself, and and just like as if nothing had ever happened.
So you said something that I caught in the movie. In Queensbridge, the depiction of living in government housing was total opposite of what you see often, of how the projects are represented. And it seemed to me in a lot of ways it was more like a village.
Absolutely.
And I wanted you to, and at the same time, you're growing up in an era where you have cocaine becomes crack cocaine, and there is this presence that's growing. We saw hustlers, but we didn't see smokers, we didn't see that. Was that a conscious decision to have this certain type of depiction in the movie, or was this you in memory thinking about what Queensbridge was for you?
Well, see, actually, it was just the fact of not only was what Queensbridge was for me, or was it a village, or was it a fact that we were very family orientated, but you're talking about the early 80s. And during this process of the early 80s, it's a time when people were still trying to make a change, when people still had a little couth with the things that they did, where you didn't find, night walkers in the daytime. We called them night walkers, but at the time, you didn't find night walkers in the daytime. You only found them at night. And the thing about it is that the surrounding area for Queensbridge Public Housing was one of the largest prostitution stroll areas, which was called Dutch Hills. So we were used to seeing certain things growing up. We'd see the lady early in the morning with the ripped up stockings, and then somebody yell out the window, "Girl, was it a rough night?" She was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go in and, get ready for tomorrow." And they're like, "All right, cool." So it actually became, certain things were so familiar, and certain things were so accepted, because this was who this person was, but we never passed judgment. So because of that, I didn't show anyone in a negative light, like, oh yeah, there goes such and such leaning on the gate, because whoever that was leaning on the gate, their life might be totally turned around today. Why would I portray them like that then? Why would it be me to bring up their past when I'm showing mine? So there were a lot of things that we just left out. There was no need for them to be in the story. Because I've never used drugs, I've never drank. You know, one of the things was I showed the people who were in my immediate circle, and that's what I dealt with.
So I wanted to move towards actual rapping and starting that. To have that skill at the age of 9, to be able to create a story, rhyme, and do it in improvisation it's a mastercraft. So could you tell me, like, how did you develop that? How did that come about? And also at 9 years old, step into adults or teenagers and battling them. I want to know where you get that from. Where is that?
You know, it all came from sitting in the house with my mom one night, and I saw Nipsey Russell on Hollywood Squares. And I was amazed with Nipsey Russell.
Can you explain who Nipsey Russell is?
Nipsey Russell is a comedian. Well, he was a comedian because he's deceased now. He was a comedian who had the ability to rhyme about everything all the time. So he would actually have full conversations, do an entire show, and everything he said rhymed. And I was so taken back with Nipsey Russell. My mother was like, what is this fascination with this man here? She was like, everybody else likes Michael Jackson, and everybody else has all these people, you know, but not Shante. Shante wants to see Nipsey Russell. She's like, well, listen, I think Nipsey lives somewhere in Manhattan. We're going to find him one day. You know, and it was Nipsey Russell who did it for me. You know, the ability to be able to rhyme all the time. And so I tried it for like 2 days straight. Everything I did, everything I said was a rhyme. And actually, I'm a firm believer that anything that you make a habit becomes embedded in you, and that's what you become. And so that's how I became a rapper. For, you know, thank you for Nipsey Russell. So Nipsey Russell started my hustle.
So Queensbridge is this cornerstone of hip hop, right? It's this space that is really critical in hip hop. Can you give us a visual of understanding of what it was like creatively, what was going on, in order to add to this body that we know as hip hop that is prominent that you think about?
Well, for me, it would start with me being inside of my bedroom. And I lived on the 6th floor, but my bedrooms faced the back. So at night, I could see the bridge, I could hear the train, but if they had a jam in the park, I could actually hear the music from the park jams. So it started from me laying in my bed at night, and I would hear Trans Europe Express. You know, you hear that. I should be out here. You know, and then from my back windows, I was also able to see the women of the evening, which was like my own personal soap opera. My mother had to yell many nights, get your ass out that window, shine. Because I'd be up there asleep on the windowsill, just watching my own soap opera, like, oh, she's new. Don't get in that car, don't get in that car. You know, that type of thing. You know, so it was very entertaining for me. And so I started actually doing rhymes about the women that I would see in the evening. And I gave them different names, and I would do different rhymes for them, you know, whether it was the clothes that they had on, or, you know, the person that they quote unquote worked for, or whatever the case may be, or the cars that were coming. So they were constant subjects up until my mom would catch me in the window, you know, but that was the case. But it was the park jams. It's the park jams and the DJs that you have in the projects that actually take the music and they make this hip-hop thing get embedded into you, where you would wake up in the morning, my entire block reacted on one person's energy every day and their emotions, and that was Molly Mall. So if Molly got up in the morning, you know, and shout out to Molly Mall, one of the greatest hip-hop producers ever. You know, and still my hip-hop brother. You know, and as in the movie you see sometimes brothers and sisters go at it, but you still brothers and sisters. So, you know, shout out my love and respect to Molly Mall. So when Molly would wake up in the morning, if he was happy, you know, he would play motivating, happy music, you know, walking on sunshine, everybody going to work, everybody going to school, everybody's happy, you know, but if he had a heartbreak, you know, you abandoned me. Everybody's sad, looking over everybody's heart is hurting, you know, and it just showed me like the power of music and the power of the DJ. You know, and that's how my entire block went by Marley's Emotions, you know. And that's how the whole hip hop thing, as far as Queensbridge and my block, because you know, you're dealing with 6 blocks, you're dealing with the whole entire city. You're talking about 15,000 tenants on paper, 30,000 any given day. Yeah, because you know, it's always a cousin, a friend, somebody else who lives in an apartment. And so, you know, you're in your own little city, and we never really had to leave. But my mom made it her business for me to go out and see other things. She, you know, she made it her business for us to go to Central Park, you know, to have Chinese food from Chinatown, to have, you know, to go to Little Italy and have Italian food. You know, we always didn't take care of the bill, but we ate it.
Right. I'm gonna speed it up just a little bit.
Okay.
So this is at the point, there's a lot of interviews that talk about when you broke, and how that happened, and it was kind of happenstance. I wanted to, you said some things in the interview I thought were really interesting. The bridge is over. We'll talk about that. Right?
Okay.
I know I'm super, y'all can ask questions and fill it in, whatever I missed. The bridge is over, and at that point, you know, that KRS-One, you know, says that, you know, that you're about 17 at the time.
Yes.
17 at the time, and there's this back and forth, right, that's going on, and the bridge is over. KRS-One says, you know, this line that, you know, Roxanne Shante is only good for, you know, and I kind of thought back, was that kind of like the first time that a guy on wax was that kind of ruthless in terms of battling or, you know, towards a woman?
Well, I think during that time, Roxanne Shante was the topic for anyone who wanted to get into the industry, because they knew that if you made a record about me, that I was going to respond. And because my response records had such a great track record of making other stars, people would do that. So I guess he would assume that, okay, well, let me come at her hard, and then I know she's really going to respond, when I was going to probably respond anyway. And actually, when that record came out, I wasn't even home. I was overseas. And when I landed, you know, this is long before, you know, everybody talking on their cell phones and, you know, everybody sending each other clips and things like that. So you literally had to wait until you got home to find out certain things. And when I returned home, I remember my limousine driver saying, listen, I know you just landed. And I was like, yeah, and I'm tired. And he was like, yeah, well, you know, I don't mean to keep talking. I was like, okay. And he was like, well, let me just say one more thing. And I was like, okay, well, just give me a minute. And I remember I rolled up the petition. Because, you know, like back in the days, the limo, you had this big petition, this big velvet petition. And I rolled up the petition. And I'm sitting back there, and I'm like, okay, let me lay across the seat, because I have this motion sickness thing, so I lay across the seat. I'm laying across the seat, and then all of a sudden I hear the petition come down. And I feel the car stop. And I'm like, are we here? Like, that was really fast. We still hadn't left the airport. Look, I found it. Like, all this time you've been looking for whatever it is you wanted me to hear. And he popped the tape in, and he said, have you heard this? And he starts playing The Bridge is Over. And I was like, oh, okay, well then I guess, you know, that's something that my brothers are definitely going to have to handle. No, wait, because he said something about you. And I'm like, oh. Now, I'm already the topic of the radio. I've had, at that time, maybe about 86 records made about me personally where they've said Roxanne Shante. So I've heard everything from Roxanne's a man, Roxanne's doctor, Roxanne's friend, Roxanne. So I've heard all of everything. And then all of a sudden, he comes out with Roxanne Shante is only good for steady. You know, and I was like, You know, I would have said the word, but she didn't say it, so I'm thinking maybe I'm not supposed to curse. So.
Oh no, you can. No.
Oh, okay, yeah, you know, 'cause, yeah. I'm trying to follow her lead. Like, okay, maybe I need to be up here more ladylike.
No.
Yeah. So he says, you know, Roxanne Shante is only good for steady fucking, and I was like, oh. So he's like, so what you gonna do? And I was like, what you gonna do, Shante? I was like, I'm gonna call Kane. You know, because at the time, Big Daddy Kane and Karis One were actually friends. Because I think they had just moved each other's furniture. Like I think they had decided to move each other's furniture or something to that effect. And I'm like, oh, this has to be Kane's friend. Let me see what's the matter with Kane to let this happen. Like, you know, because that's what brothers and sisters do. You know, so I called him up, and you know, Kane, being Big Daddy Kane, he was like, yeah, Shawnee. And I was like, you know, I heard that. He was like, I know. I said, what you mean you know I heard that? He was like, I'm taking care of it. I was like, well, you better take care of it. He was like, all right. You know, so then we came up with Have a Nice Day, which was the response to that record. And when I saw Karis One for the very first time, we actually bumped into each other at a bank. Because at that time, you didn't have too many hip-hop artists. So, and the people who did understand that we were such a commodity and that we were making them a lot of money, usually they dealt with the same banks, the same people. So most hip-hop artists wound up at the same bank, having the same accountants, dealing with the same lawyers. And, you know, for us, it didn't seem strange because we're teenagers and we're picking up checks, so we really didn't care. You know, so, okay, well, whatever you do, just don't fight in his office. Because then that means when I come there at 3 o'clock, he won't have my check. You know, so we kind of like try to keep everything going. And so we met at the bank, and I remember having my son on my hip, and I took my son off my hip, and he played to me like a spider monkey. You know, like everywhere you saw me, you saw him, which was great for me. And I took him off my hip, and I gave him to my sister, and I went straight to Karis One, and I was like, so what you want to do now? And he was like, I was like, oh, now you don't have nothing to say. He was like, you know, and I think we had talked about it years later, and he was saying that he didn't expect me to be so rah-rah when he met me. You know, he didn't expect me to be that way. And I was saying to him, like, they didn't tell you, they didn't warn you, they didn't let you know how I am. And
did he think what he said was fair game?
Well, I had a baby already, so we knew I was doing it. Now, I mean, I have been steady doing it, but we knew I did it at least once. You know, and at that time, because I was so used to being a battle rapper and having people say so many things, it didn't bother me. I was already built with a very tough skin. Like, my mom had already instilled in me a very tough skin. I remember the first time I performed, and I told my mom, I was like, if they don't like me, why is this place so packed? Why are they still buying my records if they don't like me? You know, if they come here to be mean, or to hope that I fail, or to hope that I don't make it, or to hope that I lose, if they're coming here to see me lose, why are they here? First things first, my mother said is, listen, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. As long as they paying and paying the tickets, they're still buying the records. You know, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Sometimes people don't know why they do the things they do, Shante. So just relax. Don't even worry about it. Want some beans? You know, and, you know, but being a teenager and being so young, you know, you want everyone to love you. I wanted everyone to love me. Like, I'm Roxanne Shante. I'm coming out. I'm taking up for us. And it was mainly like the women that were really, really against it. Like, oh yeah, I'm better than I'm better. And I'm saying, like, whoa, I'm out here doing this for us. Like, how could this be? How could you not, you know, want to support this? And then when my mom gave me this big speech about Dynasty. Now, there used to be a TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Dynasty. You know it. And she was like, listen, 2 different people in this world. There's some crystals and there's some Alexis. Now, people watch Dynasty and they love Crystal. But more people watch Dynasty when Alexis is getting ready to come on. Now, who dresses nice? Who dresses better? Exactly, that's what she said. Who dresses better? Alexis or Crystal? I was like, Alexis. Who has a bigger house? I was like, Alexis. Who has more diamonds? I was like, Alexis. She said, so you are Alexis. You are a person that people love to hate. She said, but don't worry, it won't always be that way. You know, there's a very thin line between love and hate, and people will eventually cross it. So don't worry, but just go out there and do what you need to do. And I was like, oh, okay. She said, and just make sure you do it well. And I was like, all right. So after that, once I started coming to stage, I would come to stage and perform literally for myself. I stopped performing for the crowd. I stopped performing for everyone else. I got up there to prove a point to myself. I became my own biggest fan. I became my own self-validator. I became my own hype person. I was like, no, I don't need no hype person. Ain't nobody got hype for me. I hype myself up. You know, all I need is my DJ and my beatbox. I don't need anything else. I don't need no hype people, no extra people, no none of that. And because of that, it built the whole Roxanne Shante persona. I come in, I'm an all-day artist. And an all-day artist is a person who, whatever I had on all day, I will wear that same shit on stage. I'm not going through changing clothes. I'm not going through putting on a whole bunch of makeup. You know, I'm not going through any of these things. I am just going to be me. And so when I show that and when people see that, I think that is what people started to gravitate towards and say, you know what? I want to be like Roxanne Shante, because Roxanne Shante really don't give a, like, she really don't care. Like, she comes in here and knows that this whole place is against her. Like, I would perform smack dab in the middle of Brooklyn, knowing that UTFO was from Brooklyn, knowing that half the place was going to be filled up with their family and the other half was going to be their friends. And I don't give a damn. I just walk right in there like, yeah, I'm here. You know, and then that started the Roxanne Shante persona.
There was some points though you talk about, like when you said there was a battle. You have this story when there was this battle of the best MC and Curtis Blow.
Yes.
Lowballed you.
Yes.
And you lost.
Yes.
When you really were supposed to have won.
Yes.
And what was his response?
Well, it was the battle for world supremacy, and I love Curtis, and we have a great relationship now. And so when that was done, I was about 15 years old, and it took place here in Manhattan, and it was for the Jack the Rapper. I think it was the Jack the Rapper convention, and they had what was called World Supremacy, and so they entered me inside of World Supremacy, and I must have battled about 12 people that day, and it seemed like everyone's battle was against me. It was like, I felt like, is anybody battling each other? Like, are there any other battles besides everyone versus Roxanne Shante? It was like they were all lined up on one side of the page, and then it was like my name on the other side of the page. And I'm thinking, like, when are they going to battle each other? You know, I'm thinking, you know, like the Final Four. I'm thinking that's how we're going to do this. And it was like, no, it's you versus everybody. Like, okay. So when we got down to the last two, which it wound up being myself and Busy B, my voice was almost gone. But again, having Nipsey Russell syndrome, you never run out of rhymes. So it's always something that they're wearing, something that they say, being able to take their rhymes, turn them around, throw them back at them. So I knew that there was no way I was going to lose. Like, I walked with that. I walked like, listen, I'm Roxanne Shante. I'm not going to lose. So, you know, call me the best in the world. And at 15, that is going to be great because they're already so much older than me, and they're men. So the best in the world is going to be a girl. And this is what I'm thinking. And I say my rhymes, and, you know, I get up there, so they say, Curtis Blow says, well, how could she lose? And it was like, man, she couldn't lose unless she got a 2. She's been getting 9s and 10s all day. There's just no way she can lose. She can't lose unless you give her a 2. You know, they polishing off the trophy. They get ready to give it to me. And he turns his scorecard around and has number 2 on it. So they give it to Busy B. So they had to take him out a different way because people were really upset. People were like, you know, and it was like my first time crying in public. And I cried, you know, and I think it was not just the little girl in me, but it was the fact that I came into this because they said that in order to be the best, you must beat the best. I came into this because I didn't want to be a great female MC. I wanted to be a great MC.
Right.
So I came into this ready for this. Like, I'm born for this. And so I think think that's what it was. I think that was like the day hip hop broke my heart. So that's what I was crying for. It wasn't because my feelings was hurt. Oh, people were saying all types of things about me, so that didn't bother me.
Right.
You know, I think this here went deeper than that, and that's the day that hip hop had actually broke my heart. So years later, me and my husband bumped into Curtis Blow. And so my husband, who's a retired boxer and a really good guy, that's the type of man that you would figure that Roxanne Shante would have to be with, like a retired boxer. Somebody who understands my 1-2. So one of the things is we see Curtis Blow and he says, "Babe, look, there go Curtis." I said, "Oh, okay." So Curtis, he said, "Look, babe, he's coming here." I said, "Okay, let me stand up." Okay. So we go, we stand up, and when we stand up, I said, he says, "Shani," because they call me Shani. He says, "Shani, God has been so good to you. This has been heavy on my heart. I have my church and everything." And I was like, "Yeah, and I'm so proud of you." He was like, "Life has turned out so good for you, regards to what has happened with a lot of us who have done certain things." And I'm like, "Yeah, but don't worry about it. It's all right," because I'm not a person who carries that. And I'm sure that we're going to talk about why I don't in a minute.
Right.
But he was like, "Can I just tell you why I did it?" So I was like, "Listen, it's okay. You don't have to tell me why." My husband cuts in. "Yes, you do." I want to know. So I'm like, "Babe, it's okay. Just let it go." And he's like, "No. You know what? Let the man get it off his chest." So I was like, okay. So now my husband has switched it around. Like, let us do this for him. Right. Let him get this off his chest. He don't want to work with this no more. So I said, "Yes." I said, "So why'd you do it?" He said, "You won." I said, "Well, thank you." Here go my husband. "Told you years ago." I said, "Okay, babe." So he says, the reason why I did that is because at that time, they were finally starting to see hip-hop as a possible genre that's going to be around. See, when I got into hip-hop music, it had an expiration date. They said it was only going to be around for 10 years. They said, get whatever you can get out of it, because see, this right here is not going to be around after 10 years. See, hip-hop was the only music that you were told that you had to outgrow in order to prove that you were going to be a successful adult. Sometimes even so that adults would not even play hip-hop music on their job, but they play it all the way till they get to the job, and then when they get to the parking lot, they switch to jazz to pretend like they were grown up. So he said at the time we had just started getting record deals. We had just started to get major labels are starting to look at us. And there is no way that they were going to take hip-hop seriously if the best in the world was a 15-year-old girl. There's just no way that they were going to do that. He said, so I had to do that. He said, I didn't want to do that, but I had to do that. And so for me, understanding what it is to be self-sacrificing and understanding what it is to put others first, I told him, I said, okay, I understand. My husband's like, well, I don't. I said, baby, we'll talk about it. I'll explain it. And let me explain it to you so that you can understand. See, because hip-hop was a genre of music that started in the hood and was a way for people who were in the hood to be able to make the type of money that they make today, for it to turn out to be a career where there wasn't a need for them to have a degree or a need for them to have to work and put in 25 years and 30 years in order to say that they have a successful career in it, that it wasn't something that someone has to come and teach you, that it was something that you either had or you didn't, and that you were able to make it and be able to hone in your own creativity and still be able to talk about the things that go on in your neighborhood, still be able to talk about the rough times, and people actually dance and laugh about the rough times and the happiness that hip-hop brings, that if that day I had to take that loss in order for hip-hop today to be winning, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
All right.
I'm gonna hold the breath 2 minutes. I'm gonna let it go. I promise. So that moment right there, and then there's a moment in the movie where you didn't get paid fairly. And then all the while this is happening and you are in an abusive relationship.
Yes.
There are moments of extreme vulnerability that are going on in your life. And there are all these people around you. Was there anybody that was truly your support system, or did you feel alone?
Well, as far as a support system, during that time, I had just recently when I first started making records, the very first day I started making records, I had actually just returned home from the group home. So, you know, it was one of those things because I had like pins warrants and things like that. So, returning home from the group home and not necessarily wanting to be a ward of the state and being able to make records and being able to make this type of money, you know, at the age of 14 and you're making thousands of dollars a week, you really can't complain, especially if you're not having to do some unspeakables. Like, all I have to do is get up here and just do the Nipsey Russell thing, and this is going to get me paid. Like my first record was done in 7 minutes in the process of doing the laundry, and now it has spanned for a 30-some-odd year career. Like, I'm not angry.
I'm not either.
Yeah. You know, so now it's one of those things where people look at it, and they'll say, well, how do you feel about that? Like, how are you feeling about that right now, Shante? And I'm good with it.
Right.
You know, and I'm absolutely good with this.
So I have a point. Who owns Roxanne Shante? Who owns those? Do you own?
No one owns Roxanne Shante. No,
Roxanne's Revenge or Roxanne. Do you have any ownership of that?
I do have ownership of it. I don't have total ownership of it.
Okay.
There's a company called Tayo Pop. That is actually owned by a young man who I happen to know and has been a great fan and friend for a very long time.
Okay.
And so because of that, there has never been an issue with any usage of the Roxanne Shante, you know, because Roxanne Shante as a brand, I own. You know, there's a lot of things that took place with the record companies where he was able to purchase certain aspects of the material that I did not have ownership of, because back in the days, no one had ownership of their stuff. Like, it was standard contract, almost standard, that you didn't own your publishing and your rights, because we didn't know anything about that. So, you know, and then he was able to get it, and I'm thankful for that, absolutely, because I'm just in a great position.
Now, a couple of years ago, there was an article, and I need you to clarify it, about you in the contract being funded by the company for getting your degree.
Right.
And could you clarify that situation? Because I've heard multiple things, but I want to hear it from you. Was that true?
Okay, inside of the contract, it stated that they would continuously pay for my education in regards to how far I decided to go. So I registered for school. I said, okay, great, I'm going to go to college. I attended universities. I was able to graduate. I do not have a PhD. I do not have a published dissertation. What happened was the record company actually started writing bounce checks to the bursar office. And those of you who know what it's like to go to the bursar office when they say they're calling you in and you're trying to use your ID to get in the building and you cannot get in the building, and then they say, oh, listen, you just need to go and straighten something out at the bursar office, and you go into the bursar office and you find out that they had written bad checks. You know, you're like, okay, so now what do I do at this point? At that time, one of my professors was actually like, listen, I don't know about you, but I'm just going to tell you like this. You have lived an incredible life. You are a phenomenal orator. I love your spirit. As far as I'm concerned, you're a doctor. So we laughed about that, you know, and I said, yeah, absolutely. So I started getting booked on the speaking circuit. And they started saying Dr. Roxanne Shante.
Okay.
And so because of that, people were like, oh yeah, well, you know, she's a doctor. And then when someone sits down and they have a conversation with me, they absolutely feel like, okay, well, you know what, that's absolutely true. I can see that. You know, I feel better when I leave her, I feel better. You know, you know, when she talks to me, I know I'm healed. You know, so, and then, you know, people would say, well, why wouldn't you correct that? And I was like, well, there's a lot of worse things to be called than a doctor, you know. And one of the things about that is that it also allowed me to change my behavior, enhance my vocabulary, understand more so of the world of academia, want to be more involved, and be able to push education. It made me actually become a person who, when people say, you know what, because of you, I want to get my master's. Because of you, I want to pursue my PhD. And I felt like there was no need to tamper with that, because that right there, to be able to say, it's one thing when someone comes up to me and says that I'm the reason why they are a rapper, but it's another reason and another feeling totally different when a mom comes up to me and says I'm the reason why she's a doctor.
Okay. So, I'm gonna have a couple of more questions and we're gonna open it up to the floor. Is that all right?
That's all right,
Okay.
girl.
All right. I'm enjoying this, by the way. I really am. This is long overdue. You moved to Newark. Have you, in the movie, you moved to Newark?
Yes.
Have you been there since? That's been your only residence?
My properties have been there since, yes, absolutely.
Okay. And in Newark, was there any overlappings with the hip hop community there, like Latifah or Naughty or anything like that?
Well, of course, because I know them and we've all worked together, we've all performed together and things like that. But I didn't make any more albums. After I was kind of finished with hip hop,
Right.
you figure I've had a career now that spans well over 30 years, and I've only had 2 albums in 30 years, where new artists will have 30 albums in 2 years.
Right. Right.
And so I think that's when I started to become more of the Shante you see now, as opposed to the Roxanne Shante that was created.
So with that, I wanted to, you touched upon the sisterhood that you and Sparky D had.
Yes.
Could you talk about, in hip hop, of course, there are more men in.
Well, I mean, I have my own personal relationships with my sisters in hip hop, and my relationships with them are truly outside of hip hop. Like I'm best friends with Mia X. I'm really tight with Yo Yo. I talk to Lily Rage. I talk to Remy, twice a week, or even sometimes more than that. I've been there for Foxy. I talked to Little. I actually took it as my job, because at the time everyone else was rapping and doing it for fun, and they were doing it. But it's been my job since the moment I picked up the microphone. So I've always seen it as such. So that's why I don't have a separate persona. Like a lot of other artists, and they're not just in hip hop, they have a separate persona. They're one person on stage, they're one person off stage. I'm the same person, and then you have some people who create a persona and then they try to live that off stage, and it gets them into a lot of trouble. But me, I'm the same person on and off stage. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I am who I am. And so when it came to even the battle rhymes and everything else, that's just who I am.
And you seem to be so cool and calm and have enjoyed the life's journey. You said something about, I don't hold any grudges. We're going to get to that. You wanted to say something, so I want to return to that. Why is that? Or what has happened?
First of all, what a lot of people don't understand is that just being alive is a blessing. Just being alive is a blessing. So why would I allow anyone or anything to make me not be happy to be alive? To make me not be happy to enjoy a day, to enjoy a sandwich, to enjoy a piece of gum. Like, just know I give no one that power. So yeah, this one may have stolen, and maybe I wasn't paid enough for this, and maybe this person didn't pay me. But then I also look at the good things about them. Now let's just go back to the 80s. And all of the artists that were able to get all of their money, and all of the money that they made, all of them wound up on drugs. All of them wound up getting high. See, I wouldn't get paid enough to get high. See, I didn't get paid enough to get high. See, so I look at it like that. I look at it like, okay, you know what? It was the height of the crack era. You're only 15 years old. If you do everything that you need to do, and you have everything that you need to have, what is left to do besides get into some trouble if there's no one there to tell you how to properly manage your money? You will start to do something other than positive things with your money. And one of those things that everybody would do is, because when people didn't have anything else to do, what they want to do? They want to get high. I had other shit to do. I had kids to take care of. I already had my son. I was responsible for my sisters. They weren't paying me enough. I was able to go out and buy them this, Now for me, splurging was buying sheepskins and bomber jackets and shell-toe Adidas and make sure everybody had fresh felines and feline suits and Sergio. So that's the reason why I look at it like a blessing. I look at it like a blessing when people say, well, you know what? Didn't you ever want to have a big house and move far, far away? Do you know how many rappers have big houses, move far, far away, then had to move the front back? So no, I'm in mama house, okay? So I'm okay being right here, being who I am. You know, knowing my neighbors, you know, being able to make small investments that turned out to be large and greater investments later. So absolutely. So I'm content with that. So I'm not angry. And when people who have done me wrong, when they come to me or when they do see me, you know, the first thing they'll say is, you know, I want to apologize. And I tell them, like, listen, don't apologize. Because if we take away anything that has taken place in my life, not anything, any slap, any black eye, any fight, any stolen or anything, that just may alter who I am today. And I can't afford for you to do that. I can't afford for you to steal this piece by trying to put the pieces together from back then. So therefore, I don't regret anything. Not the bad, not the good, not the great days, not the hungry days. You know, I don't. Like still today, like in and it's so funny because I don't have my wallet with me, but in my wallet, like I carry a paper food stamp, and I carry a paper food stamp right next to a black card. And everybody, so every time I pull out my black card, it's right next to a paper food stamp. And so, you know, people say, well, why do you keep the food stamp next to the black card? Because that just shows you that they're not far apart, that it can happen at any moment. So therefore, I need that reminder that, listen, before you keep spinning on this, remember when shit was like this. You know, I need to have that reminder for myself. And so that's how I carry myself, and that's how I'm good. Like I can walk outside and I can catch the train, I can catch the bus. I've never, you know, I don't sell people dreams. I don't have nightmares. I can walk in any neighborhood, sit down, make friends, play spades, laugh all night, play dominoes. You know, 1 minute you can see me performing at the arena, the next minute I'm at the People's Choice Bar on the corner. You know, and that's what keeps Roxanne Shante, because each night God fills me up with something that I need to give to the public. So when I see someone that's sad, or I see someone who needs a hug, or I need to talk to someone, or someone needs to talk to me, you know, I make that possible. That's why when people come up to me, they don't ask me for autographs or when you gonna make your next record. They be like, oh, can I have a hug? And can I have a selfie? And I say, okay. And then they be like, well, let's just get a selfie of the hug. You know, and that's who I am, and I won't change. And so no, I just can't be angry. I'm a breast cancer survivor. You know, and I think about it this way, you know, with all of the money and things that I should have had, they would have never been able to buy me a cure. So now I feel like I've already paid that. All right. So that's just Roxanne Shante.
All right.
Thank you.
So we're gonna. I wanted to mention about mind over matter, but hopefully somebody can talk about that. I wanted to open it up, get some feedback from folks, and maybe I'll get mind over matter.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna step out to the audience.
Okay.
You have a question? She asked about just everything I wanted to know.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Red. I go to school here, and I just had a question about when you were talking about Curtis Blow explaining to you, and you were talking about self-sacrificing. I just wanted to know if there's any advice you can give to like young Black women who find themselves having to sacrifice recognition for the work they do in order to advance like Black culture, like us as Black people, like working for, like we have to like, take a step back and not always receive what we deserve to like help out Black men and Black women and Black children.
Well, first of all, as far as for my younger sisters, and these are my sisters of any color, what you must learn to do, and I didn't learn it until later on in life, is that you need to learn how to practice some healthy selfishness. It's just, you just do. If you notice that sometimes the most selfish people are very successful, and the reason why they are is because they put themselves first. And what you need to do is be able to practice just a little bit of healthy selfishness. You know, just enough for it to be healthy, because it can get unhealthy. Because unfortunately, in the universe, what it is some people are presenters, and some people are projectors. So some people will make the idea, but then someone else needs to take it to the next level. And we need to understand what level we are and what it is we want to do. Now, for instance, you might be a great, let's say you write excellent poems. But you write excellent poems, and in the middle of writing your poetry, you realize that when it comes time for you to get in front of a crowd, you can't say them. So now you'll have all these wonderful, beautiful poems tied into this book that only you will know until somebody comes along, reads your book, and says them out loud. You can't be angry at that. You need to look at the blessing in that. Like, okay, well, listen, now since you want to say my poems, let's go on down here to the park. I need you to say them over here. And now I'm going to print up a book. And now we're going to sell the book. And then that's what you have to do. So you have to look at each thing as the opportunity that it presents itself. Because when it's your turn to present and when it's your turn to be in the forefront, you will be there. You don't want to push your way to the front only to have somebody push you back down because it wasn't your time yet. You work your way up there, and it does happen. I mean, I didn't get a movie until after 30 years in my career. Now the fact is, I never pushed. I never said, oh, they don't invite me here. They don't do this. Why don't they do that? Look at me. I did this. I did that. I did that. I just waited my turn. And I could not have waited for a better time. So that's what you need to do. Just watch. Make sure you know it. And whatever you do, make sure you keep your copies of your stuff so that this way you can validate that it is yours and you'll be able to say that. You want to make sure that you have everything copywritten. I'm a big stickler for making sure things are copywritten and make sure that things are registered. And so this way the ideas don't get stolen. But I don't care who sings the song, we all know who wrote it. Next question. See, that's when you know you are a great keynote speaker. When nobody got no questions. When you done covered everything. See, that can turn around and face forward and say, okay, now that's when you know that you've done a good job. And I'll talk about that afterwards. Yes.
Question. Basically, my name is Maggie, and I go here. I'm going to social work, so I was wondering, do you think about giving back by helping out someone like me with an idea? And what she mentioned, kind of like putting your brand out there and marketing it and selling it.
Okay, well, absolutely. I'm one who always wants to help. I actually have a company, a nonprofit organization called My Matter, and I started with my husband. And what we do is we go into the inner city schools, and we take the girls who are at risk of graduating, and we start with them actually from the 9th grade, and we stay with them all the way through to their senior year to make sure that they graduate. And so I become to them what I've always wanted. So I make it my business to be that Miss Shante for them, wishing that I would have had that person to talk to, wishing that I would have had someone to be that confidant, or someone to take me somewhere and help me when things get kind of rough. So that's what we do, and to date, we are responsible for, and my numbers keep changing because the girls keep graduating. Some graduate in January, some graduate in June. And so now we're responsible for 512 graduates, and I have salutatorians, valedictorians, and even superintendent award winners under my belt. And these were girls who were considered to be at risk of even graduating. And I do this program, we might do it ourselves. We finance it ourselves. We didn't reach out for grants. We didn't ask people for anything. He would say this is something that you just want to do, and I'm like, yeah, I need to do this. It's not something I want to do. It's something I need to do. And so many of my young ladies I would find were actually in foster care. So I'm also a CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate in Essex County for children who are in foster care. So I'm their voice when they go to court. So they look for me. So as far as giving back, yeah, I absolutely do. And I give back every single minute that I have. I make sure that I'm doing something for someone else so that this way I enjoy the minutes that I have here. So yes, and I'll give you my email. You let me know what your idea is. If there's anything that the Roxanne Shante name or brand can help with that, you just let me know. If you look at my Instagram, when people send me t-shirts, when people give me things in the street, I take it straight to my Instagram and I talk about it. I say, listen, such and such gave me this cake. I don't always say whether it's good or not. I just, I said, yeah, they gave me this cake.
Tamika.
Or if someone gives me glasses, or, and I'm quick to talk about their brands, because one of the things that I've known is that Roxanne Shante has always been and is meant to be an opportunity for others. That's what I've always been. I've always been that person who held the door open so everybody could come in. And I was okay with that. Because a lot of you have walked through a door and can't even remember who held the door open for you today.
All right.
And you can't even remember the faces of the people who held the door open for you today, but if they didn't hold that door open for you, you wouldn't have been able to come in. You know, and I don't mind that. You know, so I'm constantly giving back. So yeah, whatever it is, just, you know, let me know. I will give you my email. And one thing that I do take a lot of pride in is I'm a woman of my word. So, you know, my word is my bond. So when I say that I'm going to do something, I do it. Like, that's the reason why I work every weekend. I work every weekend. And that's because promoters know that I'm very dependable. So they'll say if we book a show a year ago, they don't have to talk to me no more until it's time to pick me up from the airport when I'm in their town. Because that's the type of reputation that I have. So yeah, so that's me, that's my mind over matter, because what's on your mind is what matters, you know, and I try to tell people to, especially the young women, that mind over matter, because they can be in such a circumstance, and if you let your mind be trapped there, then you'll be trapped there. So instead, take your mind elsewhere, and that's what I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sweet. Yeah.
I know that you're very content, and that's something that I'm very happy for you and
Thank you.
proud of you. But do you ever think about where hip hop would be today if Curtis Blow gave you that championship award?
You know, because hip hop has done so well as a genre, I would hate to imagine a world without hip hop. So I don't do it. I would hate to think that all of the things that have come just because of the emotions of one young lady, and even though the young lady is myself, what difference that would have made in such a negative impact, not just on hip hop, but think about on their communities. Think about the families that hip hop feeds. Think about the people who, if it wasn't for hip hop, would have been robbed and stealing, dead. You know, think about all the people that they take care of. It's just too many people connected to the success of hip hop for me to ever think about what if it would have been something different. I'd be afraid to imagine a world without hip hop. There's a young lady back there, and she's been raising her hand, and I don't want to ignore her.
Hi, my name is Franska. I go to this school. My question is basically, what advice would you give to someone who's, I guess, my age? I have a friend who writes music. He's really passionate about it. So what advice would you give to someone like him who's trying to enter the music game today?
Well, first things first, I would say is to make sure that you educate yourself. He needs to educate himself, not only for him to be able to handle things contractual-wise, but he needs to educate himself in promotion. He needs to educate himself in marketing, because see, everything that you're able to do for yourself, it's only a bonus if someone else comes and assists you in doing it. So you need to be able, so I think every artist today needs to know enough about everything in order for someone not to be able to feel. And you know, they say, well, you can't know. He make sure stuff is written down, make sure it's registered. You know, your ASCAP, your BMIs, whatever other company he chooses to deal with. I'm ASCAP, shout out to ASCAP, you know, but one of the things about it is you want to make sure that they're registered. You want to make sure that he has his own publishing company. He wants to come to the table with his own publishing company. So this way, that can be something that will be negotiated. It shouldn't even be included in his recording contract. That should be something totally separate. It should not be a little clause that's in there that is given away. There's no need for that. With the internet and all of the knowledge that's around now, and all the information that's available at their fingertips, there should be no artist getting a bad deal anymore. It just shouldn't even be possible. So that's what I would say. Definitely educate himself and never give up. Don't give up, because just when it feels the hardest, just when you think that you're about to give up, just when you think that it may not happen, that's when it's getting ready to happen. When you really down to your last can of beans, you got an eviction notice, you look down on the floor and you see one of your old CDs, I'm telling you that right there, that's the markers. That means it's getting ready to happen. See, a lot of people don't see those as the signs. They see those as signs of giving up or giving in. Not me, I see those as the signs of get going. It's right there, you know, and I'm living proof of that. So yeah, so don't give up. Now, if you can't sing, you need to and that's another thing too, that we have a lot going on today. People tell people they good when they not. Now back in the days, people would tell you like, man, you whack. Like, man, that ain't good. You need to be doing something else with your life.
You know, so nowadays they don't want to do that because they don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. You know, but instead of hurting somebody's feelings, you can actually wind up hurting their destiny because they could be great at something else. You know, they might have a great song, but may not have a great voice. You know, and I'm gonna tell you, writers get the most money. Like writers, don't think it's the person that's on the stage that gets the most money. That's not how it works. You know, it's all the behind the scenes that really makes a lot of money. So, you know, just make sure, you know, if they're good, you tell them. Don't mislead them.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Boyce Taylor, and I have a question. I just love the way that you have spoken about your mother, and you can see all that she has put in you. It's so wonderful. So my question is, were there grandparents that, you know, your mother's parents, was she involved with them? Were you involved with them?
Yes, absolutely. And before I go any further, everyone, that is Spike Dog's mom. Let's give her a round.
Thank you.
Yes, I actually come from, my mom is from Anderson, Alabama. She's from Alabama. And my grandmother is one of the, well, she's deceased now. We just lost her in May. But she was one of the greatest women ever. I mean, and so I still have a lot of Southern upbringing. As you can tell, there's certain things I will say yes ma'am, I'll say yes sir. You know, I make sure I eat properly at the table and ask to be excused and all those good things. But at the end of the day, she also taught us how to kick ass. And my grandmother was the cussing champion. No one, let me tell you, my grandma, I remember the first time I heard her use like bad language, and I thought she was singing. I was like, oh, I can't wait to use those words. And the way they were flowing out of her mouth, you thought it was a church hymn. She was like, and I was right there by her leg, like, yeah. So yes, I had a wonderful relationship, a nice Southern relationship and connection with my grandparents. And you know, back then, of course, you know, your grandfather's always very quiet, you know, sit on the porch and just let your grandmother handle everything. So he really didn't say too much besides, you know, I know you don't want to go to church, but just go. You know, he was just one of those. He was like real calm and cool, you know. Okay, don't worry about it. I'll talk to your grandmother, you know, but you still got the spanking. So he was like, so what did you talk to her about? What did you say? He's like, no, listen, I'm going to go in there and talk to your grandma. Don't worry about it. She still give you a spanking. You're like, look, your talking don't count. You know, so yeah, so it was a great relationship, you know, and I'm very, very family orientated, and I have a close relationship with my sisters, and yeah, life is good. Yes.
My name is Scott. I'm from Youngstown, Ohio. And I know you're a cancer survivor.
Yes.
What got you through everything you had to go through when you were dealing with the cancer?
My mindset was that I had already felt that being a great quote-unquote battle rapper, I looked at it as just another battle that I refused to lose. So I went into it with a mind like, okay, so now what do I need to do? What's gonna happen? Okay, fine, well, let's do it. You know, and I went into it and approached it as I did any other battle, and was actually successful with it since 2009. Right. Yes. Because it's all about the mind, you know, absolutely.
Hi, my name is Suzanne, and you've been a great inspiration to me ever since I was a teenager, but now as well. It means so meaningful to me to be able to hear you and see you. I guess one of the ways in which you inspired me when I was a teenager is that you took on male aggression in such a precise, clear, you know, way and deflected so much of it. And I'm wondering if your approach to dealing with not just male aggression, but I think sort of, I guess that kind of, you know, you seem to be a container for a lot of people coming at you from all directions, and you deflected, but I just wonder if it's changed at all, like your manner, your way of managing that kind of aggression.
Nope, not at all. No, not at all. Yeah. I think what it is that now I've been able to handle, or maybe people now have chose not to confront me as much as we did when we were younger.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you can just ask my cab driver earlier, because baby, we was out there on Thompson, you know, so it was one of those things that I really have not changed as far as being able to defend myself, or defend women, or to take up for the lost cause, or to be there for the underdog. That's just who I am. You know, is there a different approach to it? Absolutely. You know, the 15-year-old Shante is not the same as the 50-year-old Shante, but the 50-year-old Shante loves and respects everything the 15-year-old did. So, you know, I have not changed as far as being able to handle it that way, and I think I do handle some things the same. It's just a different level of being able to handle it now.
I see. I respect everything you did when you were a teenager, and I want to thank you, ma'am, as well. Your son, also a tremendous inspiration.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a kind of two-part question to ask you.
Okay.
Thanks for being here, and thanks, Kaya, for doing this. It's really wonderful. So I'm like a big fan of Tupac and everything, but I'm wondering if battle rapping didn't kind of get out of control, you know, especially between Tupac and Biggie, kind of, if things didn't kind of get out of control, and this kind of celebration of battle rapping, I wonder if we shouldn't kind of step back from it a little bit, you know. So that's one question. And the second question is, somewhere in the talk, which was a really good back and forth, it was said very quickly that there were more women earlier in hip hop than there are now. And I'm like, well, we seem to be going backwards, you know what? You would think that there were more women now than there were in the 80s. And so I'm trying to figure out why is that?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the latter part of your question first. She did say that there were more women before than there is now. Right. So I think what she was saying was the fact that you had more of them on the radio in as far as having songs that were being played in rotation at a time when songs were mixed in. So I think that's what she was saying. Because as far as today, we do have a lot of great female rappers. The thing about it is that they need to have that platform, and that platform is not always given to us. It's usually a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 ratio as far as platforms for female rappers and male rappers. So that means you'll have 5 male rappers and 1 female rapper. And if we only have 5 slots of radio airplay, which now they play like maybe the same 5 or 6 songs all day long, then you're only going to hear that 1 female rapper during that time. Where if there was more of a mixture, then you would definitely hear more. Now for the first part of your question, hip hop was based on being competitive. You had to be, in order to be the best, you need to beat the best. So it's always been about bragging rights. It's always been about being able to say that you're better than someone else. Unfortunately, I don't find it to be the fault of the artist as much as I find it to be the fault of those around the artist that make it a dangerous circumstance or situation. Because see, these artists that see each other, they don't see each other just want to run up and fight each other. It's usually the groups of people that surround them where those issues start. Hip hop is never going to turn away from the battle because someone always wants to be one. Someone always wants to be number one. Unfortunately, that is what this genre of music is about. See, R&B singers, they'll take their time, be number one at the chart, then they'll climb back down the chart, and then someone else will be number one. Where with hip hop is more of an aggressive music. So because of that, everyone wants to be the one. And in order to do that, the battling is always going to be there. Someone's going to want to always outdo each other, whether it's with my video costs more than your video. My car is better than your car. My clothes cost more than your clothes. So it's going to always be that competitive sense because that's where we come from. So I hope I answered your questions.
you.
Hello.
I really enjoyed your talk and the movie. It was great.
Thank you.
Really wonderful. I just have a quick question. I wanted to know why you stepped away from the industry for a bit and why you're back now, why you decided to really get back into the scene and be in the mainstream.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, my reason for stepping away from the industry was because where the record company wanted me to go, I was not willing to go. I didn't, I came in here as a great battle rapper. I came in here as a great rapper. I came in here with my clothes on. I didn't feel like I wanted to take them off. I don't like to comb my hair. I didn't want to wear wigs. I'm really not big on makeup. I'm not going to wear makeup. I tried to be a vegan, but I couldn't find anything salty enough. So it was just going in a whole different direction for me. So, I just felt that I needed to back away from it, and there were other things that I wanted to do. And one of the things that I wanted to do was become a keynote speaker. I wanted to be able to host events, which is what I do. And I work every weekend, so I constantly been working. The movie it's time to be told. It was a project that was, and we haven't even discussed the fact of that, but that project was made possible by NYU graduates. Yes, and we will actually be here on the 5th showing the movie. And the director went here to NYU, Michael Lundell, and Mimi Valdez also went here. And they made this project along with Nina Bon Jovi. They made this project happen. So it was just a time for it. I think what it is that in the universe, there's going to be a time for everything. And one of the times now is it's time for the woman. It's time for her voice to be heard. It's time for her to be in the forefront. It's time for people to kind of understand her input and what she has done and her contribution to everything that you see. And that's the reason why the movie we didn't choose for the movie to come out now. We didn't know that the Me Too movement was going to happen. We didn't know these things. All of these things were brewing. That meant that the universe was already brewing with this, and then everything just popped out at the right time. And one of the things that popped out at the right time was me.
I have a question. It's more of a local question. I'm Fahim. I'm here at NYU. I see that you're connected because I saw Mike B from my days from the source. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But this is a local question. I was 12 years old when Roxanne Revenge came out, so I had a major crush on you. So that being said, I had older brothers and cousins and friends around the way in Brooklyn that would always talk about, the jams that they would go to, and I was a shorty, so I wasn't able to go to the Union Squares and, the major clubs, back quarters, all that stuff, so can you talk about how crazy that time was, you performing in these, nightclubs, they were extremely dangerous from, what I would hear. And two, my second question is, there was a line that said, you think you are God. Can you talk about that line and what was going on in Queensbridge? Because I heard a lot about that too.
Well, the line, let's go through the line first. The line was, you think you're God, but you do eat lard. And what it was referring to some 5%ers at the time that were not right and exact. And see, I was a person who checked everybody. So it didn't matter to me who you were or what it was. So one of the things was you were not allowed to eat pork. And so if I observed someone and they were eating pork, and I was like, oh, so you think you were God, but you eat lard, like I seen you, So that was why that line was in there, because I also was a 5%. And I don't think you ever stopped being a 5%. I knew my 120, I've earned my flag. At the time I was Star Asia. And then, I liked Shante better. And then I was trying to find something to match Shante. So then they just started calling me, Queen Shante, because Star Asia didn't stick. I tried. You know, I really wanted to have one of the great names like the fellas. Like I wanted to be like Sister Understanding. I wanted to be like Mother Powerful. You know, but they was like, nah, you can't. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Queen Knowledge. You know that? You know, Queen Knowledge unique. You know, I wanted to do that because their names were like incredible. You know, and they was like, nah, you gotta take something like this. I was like, I'll forget. I'll just say Shante. You know. So that, you know, that was that line. And I remember seeing one of the one of the firstborns, which was CLI, who passed away. And I remember going to him and saying to him, like, listen, I think the gods are mad at me. And he was like, yeah, but they'll get over it. Everybody gets over it. And I was like, well, are they going to get over it before I go down to the Roxy's? Because I got to be at the Roxy's tonight. I need them to get over it now. And he was like, that's peace. I'll talk to them at the Parliament. I'll make sure it works out. So, you know, and then they respected me because I was someone who knew their lessons, so they kind of understood where I was coming from with that. You know, so peace to the gods of earth. Now, next thing, the Roxy's. These were clubs that were initially disco clubs. So they had a party atmosphere that started after midnight, which was like the party people time. That was the time when people, how can I put this? I guess this would have been a time when the cocaine really hit the brain. Like it was like, you know, I guess it went in the nose around 10 or 11, but then around 12, they really spiked. So at that midnight spiking, they had clubs that you would go to. Now we even had clubs that were considered like the Fever. The Fever was an after-hour club that did not start until 3 o'clock in the morning. And you were partying there from 3 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm 14 years old. I'm in all of these clubs. Yeah. And I just talked to Sal, who was the owner of the Fever. I just talked to him last night. And we were laughing at the fact that I would be in the Fever and he would get on the microphone and say, listen, we're going to lose our cabaret license. If anybody sees Roxanne, bring her to the front. And I'm 14 years old and I'm squeezing in between two Joker poker machines like, look, don't tell them you see me. Don't tell them you see me. Because the party atmosphere was incredible. People really party. See, there were no cell phones, so there wasn't all this filming. People danced. You went there to dance. You practiced all week dancing so that when you went there, your shit looked right. This was really, when you went there, not only did you go there for your dancing, but your fashion, your outfit. You would lay it out on a bed like somebody was in it. You would put the shirt and lay the shirt out like arms was in it. You would lay the pants and have them hanging down. Then you put your sneakers there and you step back and look at it. You're like, nah, I gotta do it like this. And you would try them on over and over and over again. And do you know how many times you would iron? Like it was a process to even going out. There was a process to going to a party. Where there was also, see, that's the thing about it. Like today, unfortunately, that is what is missing. That anticipation of the process. Everything is so instant. There's no waiting time. We don't have to wait for food. You know, I remember when, you know, before microwaves, we used to have to wait for food. You just kept opening up the oven door until you got tired of opening up the oven door and you find something else to do while it cooked. We don't have that anymore. Everything is so instant, you know. And then going to the clubs, one of the main processes of going to the clubs, besides the fact of getting your clothes and everything together, was getting there. Riding the train, walking blocks. You would get off the train and be like, listen, I don't want nobody to see us getting on the train, so what we're going to do is we're going to get off the stop before. The stop before could be 20 blocks. And you'd walk those 20 blocks so nobody knew that you caught the train to the party. You know, so that time there, we'll never get that again. But what I do is that's the reason why people have me host events for them, is because I make it my business to take them back to that time. From the moment that they start to party with me until the moment that I leave the party, I keep them in that same mode, that same mindset, whether it is the candy that's served there, whether it's the old school drinks like screwdriver, like you don't find all that Henny and all that old fancy stuff. No, you just get a plain old screwdriver and Lord iced tea. You know, before people had all these fancy drinks with fancy names, you know, where everything was that genuine good feeling. And so, you know, that's what you get from that time. And I can understand why they would brag about it and why they would talk about it, because it was incredible. And even the adrenaline from wearing your jewelry and wearing your earrings and knowing that someone might want to steal your jewelry or might want to steal your earrings, but also that pride and knowing that you're somebody that they won't do that to. Just knowing like, nah, I can wear my earrings, I can rock my chain, I'm good. That type of thing. Or being able to talk all week about how we're going to do this, or 2 weeks, depending on what it was, summer youth checks type time, so yeah. So I'll never give up the 80s, and I love it, and you gotta come see me perform so I can take you back there one day. Put you on some shell toes and do what you gotta do. Practice your walk all week. I still walk, but I just put Big A on first. So yeah, that's the party. It's like Roxanne Shante and Big A.
I want to thank you, Queen Knowledge.
Thank
This has been such a special treat for all of us at NYU.
Thank you.
We thank you for coming. We hope that we can continue this relationship, and we wish you all the best on your
Thank you.
second life.
Thank you.